Hello everyone, Ben here with a solo game of Anachrony. This is going to be just the basic solo game at the moment. Unfortunately in the base game you can't include any modules into the solo game, but I believe that is going to change with the upcoming expansion. And also with the expansion is going to be a Chronosis opponent which incorporates various aspects of the expansion into it as well. So we'll hopefully see how that works when it comes out, but for the time being this is just going to be a basic solo game against the Chronobot. And the setup is exactly the same as a two-player game. You have two-player side of the board with all bits and pieces as per a normal game. You do still get to choose your A or B side of your player board with your evacuation condition and your leader card, so that's all up to you to choose which starting bits and pieces you want. And you get your starting resources as per that. One thing I should point out, however, though, is that the Chronobot is always going to be first. So it starts out with its banner in the first player spot, which technically means then that you get one extra water as per the setup rules and you're in second place. So just something to take note of, and then we can get started. So normal 7 rounds, so 4 rounds, Cataclysm, and then a further 3, or hopefully 3, but maybe shorter depending on the variable game length at the end. And each round is broken up into the 6 phases, and we can just run through them as normal. So preparation phase, we need to flip out a mine card and a recruit card, and then put out starting goods based on that. I have skipped ahead slightly and done that already, so we have the starting recruits and the various resources in the mine area. Then we need to reveal the new super project. So we have one at the current era, but we always get to see what the one is in the future era that is immediately coming up. So a bit of fortune telling there, and that's the one that's available next era. Then we shift building stacks, and again it's the way I've placed it all out. So you always have your main building stack and then a secondary stack that starts filling up at the beginning of each era as new buildings come out. So that is already done. And then we go on to Paradox, which is basically skippable in the first era because you do not have any warp tiles cluttering up the board and causing you paradoxes and anomalous nasty effects. So we can miss that bit out. And we can go on to Power Up, which is where we get to start deciding how we're going to put out our exosuits, and therefore how many we're going to need. So basically you're going to want to power up at least 3, and these are going to be free, usually depending on your board. So we can put 3 down and we don't have to pay for any of them. And it's only unfortunately when we start putting down more that we then have to start paying attention to the costs underneath them and deciding if that's a worthwhile investment for getting this particular suit out. So 3 as a base, that's fine. Possibly a 4th is probably a good idea, and on the B side it's going to cost us a power core or 3 water. If you were to flip it over to the kind of the normalized A side, it would just be power cores. But at least for the B side of our board we could use water instead, and I think that's probably... Well, we do get 3 power cores as a start, but I think... Well, okay, we'll spend 1 power core, and we'll save our water and we'll save our other cores, and we'll probably just do 4. We don't have that many recruits at the moment to send out on various missions, and we may get a few more backers recruitments, but we may also build a few buildings and we can start putting people into buildings instead, which don't require power suits in order to place them out onto the main board. So yeah, I think 4 is a reasonable number at the moment. We don't want to obviously put out too many and spend resources on them and then realise we've wasted those resources later on when they're just kind of sitting around with no one to actually use them. So we'll leave it at 4 and that'll be fine. And then we get a return on our board of unused spaces, and on the B side of our board is going to be 2 water per unused space, so that is a total of 4, which is good. That's more water for more things later on. I can just come down here. The Chronobot is slightly different in that, at least at the start of the game, before the Cataclysm, it will just put out all its suits. It does not care whatsoever. It's an unthinking, unfeeling machine, and it will happily shut them all out and take over the entire board if it wants to do so. So that's fine. So we've done power up, we now do warp, and this is where paradoxes are going to come into play in future turns. So we can place out warp tiles and basically get a bit of bonus resources sent to us from the future. And then we generally have to pay it back, otherwise bad stuff starts to happen. So at the beginning you have usually on your warp tiles a good mixture of all the resources. Some of the recruits, apart from geniuses or genii, and exosuits. Well, I think we're fine on exosuits, we don't need any of those. We're probably fine on all the various recruits. I don't think we necessarily need to start chucking those guys back from the future. So basically, do we want some extra resources and or water? Well, water might not be a bad idea, to be honest, if we do that as a warp tile. Because it's not much of a bonus. I mean, we're going to get plenty of water as we go through anyway, but on the flip side, it's going to be very easy to send back water through the time stream and not have to worry about scrounging up the resources for it later on. So yeah, I think we'll do that just as an easy resource that we can send back through later on and get some research bonus points for doing so. So yeah, I think we'll do that. We'll grab our 2 water, and that'll be fine. And then the Chronobot should have gone first, possibly should have gone first. It's, with a normal game, it's kind of a simultaneous reveal, so you put however many tiles you want to do so in your hand, and then plonk them all out at once, so no one really knows how many tiles are going out onto the board. The Chronobot, however, just rolls the paradox die and puts out that many warp tiles of its own onto the relevant era as well. Doesn't gain any resources, doesn't do much with them apart from introduce a possibility that the Chronobot may have to roll for paradoxes as well. So that's its paradox tile there, and then we go on to action rounds. So Chronobot going first, and it's going to take its 6-sided die, it's going to roll a number, and then it's going to find whatever the action is on its particular board and do that particular action depending on the number. So number 6 is down here, and it tells us at the moment it's going to get 2 water, which is fine, and then it's going to follow the flowchart round and move its number onto the next space. So it just simply, for the number 6 anyway, shuffles along to that action there. And we will give it 2 water. It doesn't actually use resources for much. Water is the exception. It can use that for morale shifting, but everything else it just kind of stores up and possibly converts to points as the game goes along. So that is fine. That's an action for the Chronobot. Done. And then we get to do our actions. So we've got a bunch of suits, and we can start putting guys into them and sending them out into the wasteland and capital and various places on the main board. So then, I think looking at our evacuation condition, we want to have 3 water buildings as a base evacuation, and then gold plus geniuses as bonus points, which is fine. Our special leader ability basically requires us to have a lot of water in order to turn that into people, or recruit people at the cleanup phase, which is also fine. So all in all, that's kind of tying into, we want a lot of water buildings. So then, let's have a look. That one's not too bad. It's going to be, what, 3 water straight away, and then a recurring water every round, which is, well, possibly a total of 10 water if you're going to get the full use out of it. I like the look of this one, though. This basically says whenever you do the, I forget what the name of the action is. Basically, whenever you wake people up again, you can do it for half the water cost. Yeah, that could be a very good saver of water, actually. So we might go for that one then, and I think that will save us quite a lot of water. So in order to build that, we basically need 2 titanium and 1 water, and we can place it into our first slot in the relevant category. So we have the resources, certainly, and we might just go ahead straight away and build it. I don't think we need to save the resources for anything else at the moment. So sure, okay. Let's see, we have an engineer, so we can place him into our power suit there, exosuit, and we can head out to the first building spot. The first ones are free, we don't have to pay any water costs, which is fine, so we'll place him there. And for the building spaces, and this is the same for most of the spaces on the board, depending on which person you stick in your exosuit and is piloting it, they get a particular bonus. So for the case of building, if it's a scientist, it doesn't matter, they just go ahead and do the action. If it's an engineer, they get 1 less titanium off the building cost, and if it's an administrator, they can't do the thing whatsoever, they are no good. And then geniuses can mimic every other, they're basically a wild card recruit, and they can mimic every other person. So for an engineer, it would normally be 2 titanium and 1 water, but we can pay 1 less titanium, so it is 1 titanium and 1 water. And we get to have our first building. So that's a pretty good start. I'm not unhappy with that. And there. It's not necessarily one we can use, so it's not going to give us more actions without having to send our exosuits out, but it is going to be hopefully a good saver of water later on, so that's fine. Right then, back over to the chronobot. So basically play goes back and forth between yourselves and your opponent. So number 5 is going to be more water. Yeah, okay. I'm quite happy for it to stock up on water as much as it likes at the moment and not send suits out into the wastelands, so great. Okay, that's good. So we have, let's see, I know what we need to do. Do we have an administrator? No, we do not. Oh, that's going to be annoying. We want to do a recruit, basically, because there is a handy genius just kind of sitting around waiting for us to pick them up. Unfortunately, we can't use scientists for this, and we can use engineers, but they can't recruit genii. And we can use administrators, but we have none on our available limit. So what we're going to have to do first is send an engineer, and hopefully we'll get enough actions for this. Send an engineer out, pick up the administrator, and then send him out later on and grab the genius, if they're still around, which hopefully there will be. So fine. We'll do that. We'll grab our administrator who comes into our active player pool, or recruit pool, and then as part of the bonus for getting an administrator, we get a point. Let's put this over here. So, first point of the game, excellent, lovely. And back to Trainobot. Number 2 is going to be, so it's going to take up a building action, and it's going to build a tech building, which is fine, that's fine. So it does not bother with recruits, it doesn't put anyone in its suits, it just places the suit out straight away and takes up the space. It doesn't pay action costs, and it doesn't pay attention to particular bonuses on the spot it places out, it just goes ahead and does it. So it wants to build, and it was going to build a tech building. So it looks at the relevant stacks, and it determines which is the most points, and it simply takes that and plonks it onto its board and fills up the space. And then the number slides along onto the next spot. So yeah, we're not doing too badly actually. We're certainly ahead on the Chronobot on number of suits out, so that's not too bad. Next one we're going to do is we're going to place our administrator, and we're going to place them out. Unfortunately, we do have to pay a water for this particular one, but that's fine. And we get the Genius, which is good. And the benefit of the Genius, recruit bonus-wise, is they can basically do any of the other ones. So we can get 2 more water, we can get a power core, or we can get another point. I think we're going to be okay on water for the time being. So maybe a power core then. Yeah, because basically it's going to be, if we power up a suit, it's going to be 3 water or a power core. So it's the slightly better investment if we get an extra power core. The water could be used for other stuff, but I think we've got enough of that kicking around at the moment as it is. So sure. Right. Chronobot time. Number 4 is building a water building. So fine. It can do this. All the building spots have been filled up in the main area, but it can go to the World Council, and once you're in the World Council, if a particular area is filled up, you have the option of doing that as an action. So it can certainly do a build action, and it will always take the first player spot, if possible, as the preferred area. So, and it was going to build a water building, and it only has the one it can build, so that's fine. Like so. Which has left this one becoming available, so that's going to be 1 gold, but you get 6 water and a point. That seems pretty good indeed. Okay. Well, we'll have to see about that. We've got one action, well, one exosuit certainly, and what we might want to try and do is build a building where we can start using other people on our home boards. So power plants are going to be nice in the future, but they're not a priority right now because they're going to be of no use at the moment. So we can hold off on that. We've got... that's going to come out into the secondary stack next round, so we can hold off on building that. And that's going to be resource generation, but that's spending resources for power cores or water for any resource we like. That could be a useful one. If we're going to have a lot of water kicking around, we might as well turn it into resources. And that's certainly a better return than coming over to, for example, the desert traders and doing their 3 water for 2 resources. So yeah. So if we build that, what's that going to be? 2 titanium, 1 gold and 1 water. Right. Unfortunately, we are going to be short 1 gold. And there's no way to get the gold, is there? We don't have enough suits left over to go out and trade for it, or even mine it and then do the build action. Oh, looks like I was one exosuit short then after all. Well, never mind. That's just how it is. So what we'll probably do instead then is if we send out the Genius in our remaining exosuit, and let's see, we could build another water, but again we're going to be short on actually using it this round because we haven't got the resources for it. And we can build precisely nothing else. Well, we could build this tech building, let's see, so that's going to be 1 uranium, 2 titanium, and the water which we have, and it would give us this, which allows us to spend on the resource and just get 2 points. Again, not too bad, but it is going to be coming out into the secondary stack next turn, so we might have access to it later on. So I think what we'll probably just do is just go for a quick mine then, and get some resources ready for the future rounds. So then, you've got 3 areas you can mine in, and they all allow access to the left-hand side, but depending on which one you place yourself into, it gives you access to the particular one on the right-hand side. So do we want gold? I think is going to be useful. So we'll grab the gold, and then we could grab more gold, uranium, titanium, or possibly, yeah, it's certainly going to be in short supply because that's not coming out in abundance until after the cataclysm. But do we have? I mean, the only really use we have it for at the moment is building power plants, which we were going to build at some point, so yeah. Okay, we might as well grab that then, and that's there, so that's fine. And yeah, okay, we'll do that. And Chronobot is going to do, oops, I'll try not to roll the dice straight through the Chronobot board, and that's going to be 6. So it is going to be, well, after the Cataclysm it would like to build a super project, but before the Cataclysm it's just going to get a point. So sure, we'll give it 1 point there. It's not been using a lot of its suits, has it? Oh, never mind. Which is unfortunate for it, because we are going to pass now, I think. So we've got no suits left to use. We've got a couple of scientists, but they are not going to get placed out onto any buildings. And we have no free action spots we want to particularly use. We're not going to bother with waking people up just for getting one genius out. So we'll leave all that and we'll just pass. Yep. And when we pass, the Chronobot also will pass straight away and not have to worry about that. So sure. Okay. So done with action rounds, and then we're into cleanup. So basically you retrieve all your stuff from the boards, and it's probably best to do this in recruit order first and then exosuits, because depending on where you place your recruits and which particular types you use, you may get an immediate wake-up bonus, as it were. So I don't believe administrators or engineers get any bonuses from that. Engineers don't get any bonuses from that, but engineers certainly get a wake-up bonus as in the mine, and will say that this genius was an engineer when he placed himself out there. So he gets an immediate wake-up bonus there, which is good. That could be certainly very handy if we use him as an administrator for a future reviving everybody. So yeah. Then we can grab all our suits back, and they just go back to the available pool. And the Chronobot gets all its suits back, ready for powering them all up next turn. Okay. And as part of our special leader ability, we get to spend 2 water, and we get basically the dregs of the recruits, unfortunately, that no one bothered to pick during the round, but that's fine. It's still an extra scientist which we wouldn't have ordinarily, so we'll grab that. We don't get the bonus, unfortunately, but we do get the scientist, so it's not all bad. It may have been a genius, you never know. Right, we're going to go along to next round. It's not going to be the impact, so we can skip out that. So we're on to the next era. So our focus moves along, like so, indicating we're now in era 2. We get to refill the mine and do all that kind of good stuff. So new recruits, new mine stuff. Okay. So it's going to be 1 more scientist. Oh, there's still. So all of this stuff should have been removed when the new lot comes out, but basically the scientist just gets to stick around. It's going to be 2 more engineers and 1 genius. So that is going to be a early snag, I think. Yeah. And as for the mine, we need 1 neutronium, we need 1 gold, that's already there, and these 2 get chucked out to make way for the 3 titanium that needs to be there. Good, and that gold is there at the right hand side as well. Okay, and building stacks. So all building stacks basically shuffle along to create, if there wasn't a secondary pile there already, a new secondary pile, and otherwise they just get moved on. So what have we got? That is straight up 8 times water. That's, well, not too bad. But on the other hand, if we can get a plentiful supply of gold coming in, that's going to be 6 at least every round. We definitely want to look at buying a power plant though, just to get these warp tiles moving off, I think. So that's probably going to be a build we do and then we'll see about something else as well, maybe. Okay. And we need to find out what the next era's super project is going to be. +1 for every morale step. I don't think we're going to build any of these, really. We could look into building, so that gives us 2 breakthroughs for free. It's useful if you're looking at building a lot of super projects, but not at the moment, I don't think. And like I said, that would give us +1 for every time track step we do, which may be useful. We might try and do a fair amount of time tracks, but we can always go back in time and try and build that, so we'll see. Right then, where are we up to? Paradoxes. So, players with the most warp tiles on a particular era tile roll the paradox die, and that is going to be both ourselves and the Chronobot. So we have to roll, and we get 1 paradox tile, and the Chronobot has to roll, and it gets 2 paradox tiles. Good for it. There is nothing to worry about with just 1 paradox tile, so we're okay for the time being. And likewise, there's not too much for the Chronobot to worry about with just 2 paradox tiles. It's when you start getting into 3 that it starts mucking around with your time stream. So fine. Then we have to warm up exosuits, and again we're going to do our base of 3, and we could very well do a 4th. I think we certainly have the manpower to make use of a 4th. That's going to be a core. And learning the lessons from last time, I think I'm going to do a 5th. And that could either be a core, I keep nudging that, it could either be a core or 3 water. Well, we have some water to spare, and we have, let's see, if we're going to build a power plant, that's going to be 1 Neutronium, which we have. We can probably do it at a discount of 1 titanium, so that's fine. So that's all that stuff, which leaves us with 1 new titanium, 1 uranium, and 1 gold to build here. Again, we could, if we get the discount of a titanium, build in this spot as well. So potentially we could build both of these, in which case water will not be as much of a problem, I suspect. So, yes, I will, all that being said, pay the 3 water rather than the power core, and we'll save our power cores for future turns, and we'll do the water cost instead. So, sure, job done. Yep, okay. And then Chronobot does not care. Chronobot wants all its suits out, so that's going to be all 6. And we get 2 water income for our 1 remaining space, which is, yeah, not too bad. That's a bit of extra water. And then warp tiles. So we could place out more warp tiles and get some more stuff. I don't think we're going to do any recruits because we have to spend water in order to yank people back through the time stream. So not people, maybe resources. We could certainly do a titanium. That would be fairly cheap, and we could send it back without much problem, I suspect. And again, that would be good for the time track points. Yeah, we'll do a titanium. And hopefully this round we'll get the power plant out. We'll start getting our tiles back off the eras, and we won't have to worry about too many paradoxes popping up. So we'll do that, grab our titanium, which is going to be useful anyway. And we'll do that as a bonus. And then Chronobot rolls. Chronobot is going to do 2 warp tiles. Yay us, because that means we don't have to roll for that particular era for paradoxes. So we could actually quite happily leave that one lying around for some time if necessary and not have to worry about it. So yeah, good things. Warp tiles done, action tiles, Chronobot again going first, so number 3 is going to be a mine. Huh, okay. What does it want first then? So for resources it has a hierarchy of goods it wants, and it straight away wants Neutronium. Well, it can grab that, and then it wants uranium, it can grab that. Okay, so if it goes at the top space, it can take the neutronium and the uranium and not have to worry about anything. So there and there. And then once it's filled up a particular row of all the goods and also all the recruits, it can just turn those guys in some fashion and get points out of them. Won't specify how exactly, but there we go. Right, on to us then. And we want to start... Okay, if we save a genius for waking up and it can become an administrator, then we have some scientists in order to stick into suits and go out and do stuff. That is not what we need. What we need is engineers. So actually we might have to do a wake up straight away, unfortunately, and get all our engineers awoke and get them out doing stuff. Yeah, okay. So we'll do that then. Right, so this genius is going to pretend he's an administrator, so we can say that for when it comes time to return people, he'll come back as an awake. So that's fine. And we have to spend, we do get a discount, what is it? Half the water cost rounded up. So normally it'd be 5, but in this case we only have to spend 3. And then we get to shuffle that along to the right hand side. If we just took it as a free action and we didn't worry about the morale track whatsoever, we would shift it to the left and start losing points. But as it is, that's fine. So all these guys get moved across, which is great. They're all available, and we have to spend our 3 water. We've got some to spare, so that's not too bad. Although we are going to need more at the end of the round, especially for our leadership ability. So, Chronobot is going to do number 5. It is going to build a water building. Right, well that could be, I haven't worked this one out yet, so it's going to take that as a space, which is going to hinder us somewhat. And the building it's going to take is the one with the most points, good. So it's not going to grab the one we wanted, which is fine. It's going to stack up points, but I'm quite happy to let that one go and leave it at that. And then this needs to move across. Like so. Did we do that for the previous? So it did in number 3, I believe, and it did in mine, and then that one should have shifted down. So I think that is now, yeah, I think that is the Chronobot sorted. So back round to us, and we can start sticking our engineers into suits and getting them out while the mining spots are still, the building spots are still good. So we need to spend a water for the spot. So we'll do that now before I forget. And that is going to be 4 in, okay, we'll call it 4 in change after I pick these ones up. Good. And then we need to build, and I think the power plant is probably the preferred one at the moment. We may or may not get another build later on. I'm not 100% certain on that one. So we'll go for the power plant first, and we'll get that one built before anything else starts mucking around with the available options. So we need that, and then we get a discount of 1 titanium, so just the 1, and then a water, like so. And that gets plonked in the space, and we can start using that with one of our scientists, so they can actually become useful. Good. Right then. Okay, so number 2 is going to be a breakthrough. Okay, it's going to start doing some research stuff. So breakthrough. Now, normally, if you come along and do the action, you get to basically set one of these dice as your preferred option. So you just leave it as it is, and then you roll the other one to determine which of the face comes up, and then you figure out which tile you're going to grab from the breakthrough stack, as depending on what came up on the dice. But for the Chronobot, it does not care about that whatsoever. It simply rolls the shape die, and it is a triangle, and it just takes one of the triangle shapes and puts it in its available area. We'll leave it over here. And that is going to be points at the end of the game, depending on how many it picks up. So that is fine, it can have that. Which leaves us with, let's see, we can do another build, I think. So we can stick another engineer in. We'll have to come up to the World Council space, unfortunately, and then come across and do a build action. Did we? Nope, I keep forgetting to move these across the flowchart. So we can do a build with this engineer, and we're going to build the other water space. So it's going to be one neutronium, one uranium, one titanium, because we're going to get a discount because it's an engineer, and one water. Okay. Now then, we have 2 spare water. We're going to have to spend at least 1 on a World Council space. If we come over to here, however, we could spend a second water, so 2 in total, and grab ourselves first player. That's, well, it's kind of nice. I mean, first player is always nice, but is it worth spending a water? I mean, the Chronobot hasn't been mucking us around too much. It hasn't grabbed many of the things, or any of the things, I don't think we would have wanted if we had been first player in the first place. So, no, not yet. Maybe in after the Cataclysm, when we start getting more bonuses out on these tiles, and prime spots are a bit more picky, then it might be worth being first player. But for the time being, I'm quite happy to save a water and continue to remain second. So we will only spend 1 water for that space, and all of the aforementioned resources. We save the titanium, and we want, which was it, this water building? So we're going to have to spend gold on it, but we do have at least 1 gold already, so that's fine. And that can go there, and that is going to give us a huge amount of water, turn in turn, if we can get the gold for it. So, yeah. Some mining might be in effect then, I think. Good, okay, that's an idea. Chronobot is number 6. It's not doing many of the upper numbers, is it? So number 6, again, is going to be, it's not quite the Cataclysm yet, so it's just going to get a point and slide it across. So 1 point there. Oh, that's our pile. I'd love to have an extra point, but unfortunately not. So there we go. Right then, let's see, what do we want to do now then? I did say we would need lots of gold to power water buildings, so we might want to come and mine for some gold before those spaces get filled up. We certainly have the suits to do so. Unfortunately, we are out of engineers. I know what I want to do. I want to put this administrator in a suit and send him out to recruit. So this has been possibly slightly lowered down on our list of priorities, but grabbing this genius is definitely something to do before the Chronobot gets in there. So we'll stick an administrator in. It's a free space. We can certainly grab the genius, and we can plonk him out there and then not have to worry about, well, possibly engineers for a while, because these guys can masquerade as engineers and pretend they have the knowledge. And they may well have, you never know. And we get a bonus of our choice, so point, power core, we could use more power cores, or 2 water. I think again the power core is probably the preferential option, so we'll do that, and we'll get those stacking up. So yep. Number 4. What is number 4? Okay, number 4, oh, well, just in time then, because the Chronobot is going to do recruit action now. It's going to send its exosuit out, and it would have grabbed the genius, but we got there first very handily. So it has a choice of scientist or engineer, and it would like engineer first. So yep, engineer it is. Good. Which leaves us with 2 more suits and 1 space for a scientist and 1 space for anybody to get some water. We need to make sure we have 2 water first before we use the power plant. So, scientist for that, could very well use a scientist for that. 2 suits with genii in them, very well, yep. And then 1 guy left over and he can just sit around and not do a whole lot, unfortunately, but there we go. So, we're going to have this guy come out. over here, and he can mine for that much needed gold, which we're going to need in future. So we can have 1 gold. Either way, we can basically have 1 gold, and we can have maybe a 2nd gold or maybe another titanium. Well, let's see. We've got some titanium, and what are we going to need in future? Might be worth trying to get some of these tech buildings maybe, which unfortunately use uranium. We don't have access to that. But titanium is always useful for building, so we'll get another titanium. So the gold and the titanium, and we'll see how that all pans out. Okay. Chronobot is a number 3. What is it going to do now? So it is going to build. It cannot build it can build a water building. I tell a lie. It does still have just about enough space for it. It's not quite hit the 3 water building limit just yet. So it will take a suit and occupy the last council spot for that, and it will come down and do a building action. And it's only got 1 water building it can build, so we'll grab that one and fill up all its space there, and then that will just move across. Okay, so let's see, it's going to have possibly 1 more action. Yeah, well, it might roll a 6, in which case it can grab some water, but that's about it really. Everything else is going to require it to send a suit out, unless it builds again, in which case it's not. So what are we looking at, 50-50? Yeah, 50-50, it's going to start using a suit up. Otherwise, it's going to do some onboard actions and then give us some extra turns, because basically once the Chronobot has used all its suits up, it does a time travel action and then it passes. So we may or may not have 2 extra turns, but probably not best to count on it. So we've got 1 more suit, 2 scientists. What would we like to ideally do? I think the water and then sending it back in time is the priority. And if we have to unfortunately waste a suit and that gets passed on, then we may very well have to do that. So yeah, in that case then let us spend the gold and get 6 water. So gold is spent and we get 6 water and a point. That's always very handy. And then Chronobot's going to do something. It's a 1. So nope, that doesn't affect us, fortunately. It would like to build a power plant, but it can't because all the building options are filled up. So it will still move its mark across, but in the case of it not being able to do anything, technically it will just get 2 water and a point. So it's always going to get some points from somewhere, but at least it's not putting suits out and fast forwarding the round somewhat. So then we can do a time travel. Okay, so our focus is in era 2, and we can go back 2 eras as per our power plant. So we only need to go back 1 technically. Good. And then we can, if we have the resources and we so wish, we can take off a token by returning those resources back to the past. So that was the 2 water we got and sent back, and we removed the token, so now we don't have to suffer paradoxes. Excellent. And if you successfully do that, if you successfully set your marker back to the past and you return resources, taking off a time travel token, you then get to move your marker up the time travel and get some points from doing the relevant research into that area. So great, all done. Chronobot is going to do a 1, and it is also going to move up its time travel marker, and it will take off. Okay, well this is unfortunate. So when it does time travel, it likes to take off obviously where it has the most tiles to stop itself rolling paradoxes if possible. So unfortunately we're now tied up, so we're going to have to roll for paradoxes there, but not too bad. At least we don't have to roll for this one here, which is fine. And then it moves along. So we have to do 1 more action and we can pass, and yeah, that looks fine. So we've got 1 more suit. We can't recruit, we can't build, we could mine, we could break through, but that's spending water. Or we could just come over here and do some miscellaneous bits and pieces. Maybe grab some more water? We are probably going to go through it at a prodigious rate. So, yes. Sure. And then we need more titanium. Maybe getting some titanium in order to clear out that time travel marker might be a better idea. Because we can always get water from other places. We now have this rather nice water building that's giving us 6 for every gold. So as long as we keep getting gold, yeah, I think another mine is possibly in action. So we'll grab the titanium from that space and the gold from the main supply. That will give us sufficient resources, I think, to fulfill all our duties for the next several eras at least anyway. So yeah, we'll do that. Chronobot gets one last turn, and it's at number 5, and it's going to be another recruit. It can't do a recruit because there's no one left, for no spaces left to recruit. So it will grab 2 water and a point and move that across. So more points unfortunately, but never mind. 2 water. Okay, and then we can now pass. Yep, that seems pretty good. And then the Chronobot just has to pass anyway. It doesn't get the option of carrying on. So, good. Clean up, retrieve workers. Let's see. So he's not going to get to wake up, unfortunately. Neither is he. Neither is he. But these 2 geniuses we're going to call engineers, and those guys do get to come back awake. As does this guy who was filling in as an administrator, and then not that scientist, but this scientist does get to do so. So again, we're short on engineers, but we do have some genii kicking around who can fill in. So not too bad. And then our focus moves on to the next relevant era. And we need our suits back. We're not quite at impact just yet, but we're certainly getting there. And then Chronobot suits, all back unfortunately. But I think we're doing reasonably well to hold it off. It's racking up some buildings, and it's getting there on bits and pieces to chuck into points, but that's not too bad. So yeah, I think we're doing okay. So then, refill, let's see, we need to recruit and mine. So 2 scientists, 1 already is out there. 1 engineer, that's good, and 1 genius. Well, I know what we're going to go for next round, I suspect. And then, as per the resources we need, well, we're getting a lot of that, and we're still not into cataclysm time, so fine. 2 uranium, that could possibly come in handy for building stuff, and then 1 titanium at the bottom, and that is fine. And we need 1 of those, and 1 of those to fill out the spaces on the right. So good, all done. We need a new super project. So up next is Tectonic Drill. When you drill, you get a resource of your choice, apart from neutronium. That could be very handy, actually. We are doing a lot of mining for resources, so getting more whenever we do it is probably very handy. That's going to be some breakthroughs and titanium and gold, and we're going to have to give it an engineer. But yeah, I think that's probably something to work towards this era, and then next era when we're in focus we can build it. I like it better than possibly Archive of the Eras, where I'm not 100% convinced we're going to be utilising the time track enough to warrant extra points for it. So yeah, and then new buildings on the stacks. What's that? Use that. Oh, the guy has to die, and then he gets 7 water, that's why it's so much. Fair enough then. Although that one is, the guy continues to be awake, but we get 3 water. That could be very useful as our 3rd and final water building. So yeah, that could be... so many options. Right, Super projects, building stacks, yes, roll for paradoxes. So Chronobot has to roll, and it does get 1 paradox, and that is it. So basically, once you fill up your paradox area, you stop rolling for paradoxes, and you just take a... I forget what the term is. You just take a terrible building tile, basically, which docks you points if you don't clear it out. But if you do clear it out, it kills off one of your guys. So all bad all round. And then it just clears off all those. And as a reward, kind of, for getting that, it does get to shift off one of its time tiles. So it's a tie between the two. I believe it is then oldest first, possibly. So it will take off that one and return it to its board. So that's fine. And then we have to roll because we were tied with the Chronobot on this one. So we are going to also get a paradox. We might have to look at shifting off these somewhat. Right. Okay, well, fair enough. We've got one more, and then we do have to start plonking down those buildings. Huh. Okay, fine. Well, we'll see. So we've done paradoxes, we do power up, so the 3 base, and then we are still flush with cores. We've got enough cores, so maybe at least 1 core, and we'll get another one out. And then, do we spend... So we can afford to get out the 2nd core with water. We could get out more cores if we... more suits, sorry, if we start using more cores. But I think just the 4, really. We're going to want to do 1 build, possibly... possibly there for the water, if we build. And then we're going to want to maybe do a breakthrough and start saving up for this Tectonic Drill. So all in all, we need to get some resources, we need to get a breakthrough, we need to do a build, but that's not too many suits, to be honest. That's not a whole lot of suits. 1 build, 1 breakthrough, bunch of mines, save people for... we want to maybe do a recruit as well and get that genius before it gets taken off by the Chronobot. Is it worth putting out another suit, or can we work around that? I'm tempted to say we can probably work around it without having to spend the resources on a suit. I'm tempted to say that. I think we can probably afford to give up the genius maybe to the Chronobot and grab this engineer as an after the fact leadership ability. So we might very well try and do that instead. Yeah, I think that's... We've got 3 genius, so we're not doing too badly on our evacuation procedure. We get bonus points for those. We just need a bunch of gold, really. So yeah, I think we can save the resources, not have to power up another exosuit, and we'll get 4 water for the 3 spaces. So we'll do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. And then this gives us more cores, which we can certainly use after the impending cataclysm when we're going to need them better. So yeah, that's fine. Right, on to warp, and we can place out again. We could just plonk out a tile and get 2 water, which is quite inexpensive to send back through time. We could even get an exosuit out, but that's probably slightly harder to send back through time, so I think we're going to miss that one. And we're not particularly starved of resources that we have to grab some more from the tiles, so I think we can probably afford to skip that as well. Yeah, so just the water, I think, and we'll grab 2 water. Like so. Okay, and Chronobot is going to put out 1 warp tile. Excuse me a second. So again, sorry. Again, it's tying us up on tiles, so we don't have to, well, we still have to roll for paradoxes, but if we can clear it out, then it's not too much to ask, and the Chronobot can roll all by himself in future. So fine. Right, on to action rounds. So then, Chronobot's still going first. Unfortunately, we haven't got that yet, but that's not too bad. It's going to be a number 2, and it is going to be a mine. Well, we can let it have one mine space. I think that's probably fine. So what's it going to want? It's going to want gold, and then it's going to want titanium. So if it goes... I don't think it makes a jot of difference. It can basically get gold and titanium, either one of these bottom two it goes into, or place it in the one that's slightly further up, and it will take the gold, and it will take the titanium. And that are its 2 resources. And unfortunately, so we'll move that across, we'll not forget to do that. Unfortunately, it's now got a suite of all of them, so we have to chuck them all back, and it simply gets 5 points for it, which is a shame, because we were doing so well on keeping up with it on points. But still, we are going to get this, well, hopefully going to get this super project in the near future, which is going to be a bunch of points, so fine. Right then. Chronobot done. We need to do, well, I think we're going to want, so I want to save one of these genii to be an administrator for the wake up, but we can certainly send one out in a suit as a engineer and grab some resources while the grabbing is good, or we could do a build while the building is cheaper. What would we like to build? We don't have the resources for that water yet. So let's go and get the resources, shall we? So we'll do that. It can be an engineer, so they'll wake up refreshed when the people come back in again. And we definitely want uranium, so we'll grab that. And then it's our choice of basically neutronium, gold, or more uranium. That one wants a bunch of titanium and some more gold. So I think gold is probably the preferred option for the resources that we're going to get. We could certainly find a use for it on our water tile if nothing else. So good. Chronobot says number 4. It's not rolled 1 very many times, has it? Oh, maybe it has. So number 4 is going to build... well, fine. We can probably afford to spend the extra water if we have to. So it's going to build a resource generating mine, so I'm going to slide itself up. So out here, and then the most cost mine in points terms is going to be this one, so it will grab that and give itself 3 points at game end. Okay, fair enough. And all done. So then, well, let's go and build, or we still have a slightly cheaper option available. So that's going to be a water for the cost, excuse me. And then we need to, so then, it's going to be 1 uranium, 1 titanium because we can do it at a 1 titanium discount, and a gold, and then 2 extra water for the space. So all of that stuff basically, and then we can plonk it out there, and we can... That one's more points, and it's only 3 water, but the guy keeps waking up every turn. This one is 7 water, which is great, but the guy keeps dying, so we work him to death for a bit of extra water. We do have a lot of scientists we're not using. We could... no, that's probably a bit too cruel, and we might need these guys for breakthroughs. So fair enough, we'll just go for the slightly more humane one, and we'll place that one out like so. And then we give up the stuff. And the extra water. So yeah, we've successfully got our 3 water buildings, so we're all set for evacuation when that comes around. We just need several more genii and some more gold, and then we're going to be in the points. So great. That's a few rounds anyway. The Chronobot does not actually, when it comes to evacuation, bother whatsoever. It doesn't care about, obviously, getting people out. It just wants to enslave all of humanity. So we can leave evacuation potentially until the very end, the very possible end, and do it at the very end. So we can get maximum preparation for points up until we do it. So there's no rush on that. Fine. So Chronobot is a number 3. Number 3 is recruit. Well, yeah, that's unfortunate, but that was likely to happen. So it will go out, it will grab the genii and plonk it in its most preferred spot there. So we have 2 more suits, and I know that one is definitely going to be a breakthrough because we need to start working towards this tectonic drill. So that, okay. So that, and then 1 more suit, which we can do after a wake up when we've got all the guys back in. And we can probably send it out to do a mine maybe, and get some more materials. And then we can start chucking people into these areas down here. Yeah. Or do we want to mine first while there is still some resources available? Uranium, neutronium, titanium, maybe. Breakthroughs. There's plenty of spaces on the breakthrough area, so we don't have to worry about it too much. If worst comes to worst, we'll have to pay a water for it, so fine. I think we want to probably, yeah, send a scientist. Has to be a scientist, has to be a scientist. So we'll send a scientist out. They can do some mining, they're not going to come back refreshed, but never mind. And we can grab titanium, which is good, and we may as well grab neutronium, which is possibly even better. It's basically just that or uranium, and while we do have tech buildings require uranium to build, what are we doing in the way of tech buildings, I wonder? Give up that to get some extra people, or when we do breakthroughs, spend a war to get a resource. Not really fussed by any of those tech buildings, to be perfectly honest. So, yeah, I think we can hold off on getting uranium, and if we get some nice looking tech buildings later on, then we can worry about getting the stuff and all that stuff later. So, yeah, we'll get the neutronium instead, which I think is probably going to be a better return of resources. Another number 3. So what is it doing now? It wants to build, and did it just do that and I forgot to... No, I think it was a recruit. I think we are up to date on whether the Chronobot is on its flowchart. So it's going to do a build, and it's going to build a mine. So it does have, if it comes up to first player area, it does have an available location, and the most expensive points-wise mine building is this for the Chronobot, so that will give it that. Okay, and then we have this scientist which we wanted to do, so this scientist can come out. Only scientists or genii can come to the breakthrough space, and we would like, so let's see, so if we go for the Tectonic Drill, which is going to be up next era, the breakthroughs we need are the bullseye circle, whatever that particular icon indicates, or some kind of triangle and some kind of square. So if we go for a bullseye and we set one die to be that, and that is our set die, and then the other one we have to roll, and it's basically going to be 33 if we get a circle or not. No, it's a triangle, which means we have to look through the various stacks, and there we go. So bullseye triangle is now on our available areas of breakthrough, but it does mean that in future when we do another breakthrough we can just set it to be a square of some kind, and then we'll have the guaranteed stuff we need for that. So that is all looking quite nice there. Chronobot is going to number 6. 2 water. Well, I am happy to let it have 2 water. We'll give it a 5, and we'll put back 3 because it's hoarding quite a number of those. Right, doesn't use a suit, so that's fine, it can keep doing that as much as it likes. And then we are now into board action territory. We've used up all exosuits. I think that's probably fine, I don't think we actually needed that extra one. which is fine, so that's a useful decision, got the resources for it. So now then, Genius is going to become an administrator. It's going to wake those guys up. We do have to, let's see, so it's going to be 5, again, half rounded up. So we can spend 3 and move ourselves up on the morale. So all our guys are waking up very nice and chirpy, which is great. Yeah, that's ticking up quite nice on the points, to be honest. I think that building has come in quite handy for saving us some water. We've got at least 2 left over for end of round bonus. And we don't need much more than that at the moment. We're going to get plenty more from activating these buildings, so yeah, that is quite good, I think. Right then, let's see. Chronobot time, that's what I'm forgetting. It's a number 3, it is going to be... So, can it do a morale boost? It can do. It does have the water. So basically it's a wake-up morale. I don't quite know who it's waking up, but never mind. And if it can't do that, if it doesn't have the water, for example, it just does a recruit. So it does have the water, so it will shuffle along and get a couple more points and spend the 5 water, like so. And then on to us, and we have these fresh new faces ready to do stuff. So let's see, we have to save 1 scientist for our power plant. But other than that, we can chuck these guys in however we like. We'll probably save an administrator for next round in case we need to wake people up, so that's fine. So 2 engineers, spend a gold, get water, just get water, send titanium back. Well, let's do the titanium first, so we'll do that. So scientist activates the building. We're going to set our focus 2 spaces back, or just 1 in this case, and we're going to give up the titanium and send it back through time, say thank you very much, and get rid of that warp tile. And because we've done that successfully, both parts, we get to move up the time track. Now unfortunately we can't do it in the current era. You can't, well, I don't know the specific physics of it, but I suspect that if you tried to send time travelled stuff in the current era, you'd have invented some kind of teleportation device. So we can't do it in the current era. We have extra water, so we could very well quite happily send it back, but unfortunately the mechanics do not quite work that way. So only stuff to the past, unfortunately. But that's fine, we're still rolling 1 less paradox die, so we do need to work out at taking out those, don't we? How do we... Well, unfortunately none of the tech buildings have come up yet, which allow us to get rid of paradoxes, so fingers crossed maybe one of those will come up sooner rather than later, and we can save ourselves from getting some anomalous buildings, but nothing yet, unfortunately. Never mind. Number 1. So let's see. It can do that. It can very well do that. Or can it? Nope, doesn't have the resources. So basically, a Chronobot follows similar rules to yourself when getting rid of anomalous buildings. It will try and give up 2 resources from the least to the most desired resources, plus some water, and then take off the tile. It doesn't have any, it turned them into points a while back, so it will just do nothing, still move the marker along, but it will get 2 water and a point. So it's not getting entirely nothing, it's still racking up the score somewhat, but not as much as of clearing off this building would. So fair enough. And then we are on to the last couple of actions, so we're going to do this one and just get 3 water. And nothing else, but 3 water is 3 water, so yeah. And then Chronobot is another number 1. So it's going to try and build a power plant. It can do that. So there is another World Council space, and it can very well build a power plant building. So what's the most one with points? So both of them are tied up on points. They both give it a point each. So it takes from the secondary stack first as a preference, and gives it its first power plant of the game, which is fair enough. And then we will do our final action and activate this building. We have to give up a gold to do so, but that's what the gold is for. And then we get 6 water and a point. So 6 water and a point. Good. So our points pile doesn't look quite as impressive with the Chronobot, but we've got other points elsewhere, and we're working on more points on the Tectonic Drill. So fine. Chronobot is going to do a number 2, which is going to be a water building. Well, all the building spots are filled up, so that's fine. And even if it wasn't, it's still maxed out its available water buildings. So it will skip that entirety, it will still move the marker along, but it will just grab another 2 water and another point. So yeah. Okay, well, fair enough. And then we're all done. Excuse me. We're all done, so we can pass. Chronobot is then forced to pass, so cool. Into cleanup, and I believe I forgot this last round, so I'll definitely not forget it this round. We can spend 2 water to grab one of the recruits that are left on the stacks, and I think an engineer is probably a good idea. We don't get the recruit bonus, but an engineer is still an engineer, so fine. And then we get guys back. So scientist, genii. This guy was going to be an engineer, so he comes back refreshed. This guy unfortunately was not, so he still has to go back to the wake-up pile. And then on the board, this guy no, but these 2 yes. So good. And this genius who's masquerading as an administrator also yes. Great. So let's get our suits back, and we might very well have need for more suits powered up this turn, I suspect. We shall see. Chronobot. Okay, and we are getting very close to Cataclysm time. So where's my... So that should have been moved back to there, and then we are now into the 4th era. Not quite into there, but we're getting there next round, certainly. So prep phase, we need to refill the relevant stuff. So another genius comes out. Okay. No scientists, these guys just get moved off. But 2 engineers, an administrator, we haven't seen one of those for a while, and a genius. We do want to get that. That might very well be a priority, I think. Yeah. Let's see, 1 uranium, so that can stick around. 3 gold, so no neutronium this time, but that's fine. We've got some if we need it. And then the 3 on the various areas, like so. Buildings, building. Okay, let's try and clean up these stacks somewhat, because you're not supposed to figure out what is coming up in future tiles. So if we can just make sure these stacks don't reveal too much information, that would be handy. And then a future super project. Grand Reservoir. What's that? When you pay a water cost, it's 1 less water? For everything? Wow. That would... Well, I was going to say it would have come in very handy with our water strategy, but to be honest, we're getting so much water, we don't necessarily need to not pay 1 less water for stuff. I mean, if we have the goods and we can set our focus back and grab it at some point, that might very well be useful, but on the whole, maybe not. No, I think the Tectonic Drill is still what we want to go for. And let's see, we've got 2 titanium, we've got the 1 gold, we've got engineers coming out of our ears, we need a breakthrough, so 1 breakthrough, straight into a build, get the genius at some point. Maybe genius first, then breakthrough, then build. Okay, so that's 3 turns mapped out, certainly. So where are we up to? Refill, did all that. Paradox, okay. So Chronobot has to roll. Yes. It's going to get 1 tile. And then both ourselves and the Chronobot have to roll. So that's 1 for us. None for the Chronobot. That is a shame. Because unfortunately our paradox area is now full up. So we have to get an anomalous building. So this sticks itself in the leftmost building space, and if there's an equal one on the rows, you just pick whichever one you want. We don't seem to be doing much in the way of mine buildings, so we'll chuck it in there and we'll fill up that spot. We might very well get tech buildings later on at some point. Now that the paradox tiles have been wiped off, it's not necessarily something we want to focus on too much, I suspect. Oh, and we do get to take off a warp tile, so that one gets taken off, which is a shame because we would like to send back the water and got the time travel research points for it, but never mind. At least we can stick it out now again, and then send more water back in time. So yeah, we shall do that. Right then, where were we up to? Paradox, yes, power-ups. So 1, 2, and 3. And that was going to be the 3 core actions we want to do this round. And then possibly mine for some goods. So maybe a 4th. And leave it at 4. Well, always more breakthroughs might be nice if we can start collecting them. So maybe a 5th. And what do we have? We have 2 cores. We have an abundance of water, so I'm not fussed about spending water for powering up just yet. So that's fine. Maybe even more mining, to be honest. We could always use a lot more gold. We could use a lot more gold because we've got gold coming up as part of our... Yeah, okay. So we'll definitely do a 4th and probably a 5th, and we'll spend the water. We'll save our cores for the time being. So that's 3 free, and then 2, which are going to cost a total of 6 water. But we do get 2 back for the free space we have left on our board. There. So that's fine. Exosuit's powered up. Warping, we are certainly going to place out a warp tile, and we'll get our 2 water, and then we'll chuck it back in time at some point in the future. That's fine. And Chronobot is going to do no warp tiles. So we're going to have to roll for paradoxes there no matter what, but fine. Never mind. Right then, and on to action rounds. Again, Chronobot first. Number 5. Number 5 is, it's going to build, okay, so it's going to take one of our building spaces, but fair enough, and it's going to build a mine building, and the one that has the most points is that one. So that's now filled up its mine building stack, so anytime it rolls that in future, it's just going to get 2 water and a point. And then this moves up, and because this particular area is now cluttered up with 3 or more tiles, it takes the highest one, which is the number 5, and simply shuffles it along to the next spot in the flow diagram. So fine. Right, which leaves us with using, oh let's see, if we use our administrator to recruit, nope, that's fine. We've got geniuses to spare to do wake-ups with, so fair enough. So our administrator comes out to recruit. He's going to recruit the lone genius there, which is great. And then we get the bonus of point, power core, 2 water. Again, I think the power core is probably going to come into play later on with good effect, so we'll do that. And on to Chronobot. Number 1. Number 1 is, it's R. This is, well, still fine, okay. So it's going to clog up another build space, unfortunately, and it's going to build a power plant. More points for that one. So, yep, there we go. That is clogging up the building spaces, but we still have World Council spaces left, so that's not all lost. But we are going to have to get out there pretty soon, I think. So we need, let's see, a genius as a scientist, and we want, well, we can set one die face to a square, and then the second one can be whatever the hell it likes. So DNA, square DNA, jolly good. And then that gives us the 2 that we need for building the Tectonic Drill. And let's see, we've got the titanium. We can send, yep, we've got engineers to spare, so you can send one back for a titanium reduction. we've got the gold, and again, engineers to spare, so fortunately one of them can sacrifice himself for the greater good and build our Tectonic Drill for us. So, sure. Okay. Chronobot is another number 1. So, I keep forgetting. So it was there, but it shuffles along, and now it does time bonus, and then shuffles along again. So that moves on, and again, equal numbers, so old is first, I believe, and takes that one off. So it's rolling one less die now for paradoxes, but never mind, it's still going to roll something for them at least anyway. So back to us, and we can stick a engineer. We'll save our genius for later. So engineer in a suit, he can come up to, maybe it is now time to go for first player. We've got water to spare, we've got water in abundance, we have multiple ways of grabbing water later on, so we can certainly afford to spend a couple of it, I think. And yes, we'll do the 2 water for the space, and we'll become first player, so that one goes out, and our one comes in, and we are now proclaimed first player. And then we're going to come in and do a building action. It's an engineer, so it gets the titanium reduction in cost, and our focus is in the current era, so that's fine for the Tectonic Drill. We would have had to use a power plant otherwise and set our focus back somewhere else in the past in order to build previous ones, but Tectonic Drill is fine. So we have our 2 breakthroughs we want to give up. Yes, indeed. We have our titanium at a discount, we have our gold, and then we have our sadly soon to be deceased engineer, so he goes off, and back to supply, and we get our Tectonic Drill. And we can place it, we're not doing much with the tech plant, so we may as well stick it there, I think, at the bottom, and that is fine. And that now gives us a mining bonus, which is great because we're going to do plenty of that in the future, so this is going to come in very handily. So yes, yes indeed. Good. And it's 6 points to boot, so you can't really say no to that. And Chronobot is going to do, where's the number 4? Here it is. So it does indeed have plenty of water. It can very well do the morale boost, so it's going to spend 6 and give itself even more points, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, and a further 3. So yeah, water to spare, which is fine. And that was a number 4, so that will just shuffle on to there. Good. So then, well, we can start doing mining in earnest now, can't we? We've got that engineer to send out, and I don't know what to build next, to be honest. I mean, we could certainly just get a lot of gold and stock up for the salvation part, the bit where we all head off into a bright new future. But apart from that, maybe it's worth. Well, we've got one power building which we're using to good effect whenever we do get to use it, so that's fine for the time being. We don't really need more resources. If we're coming to the mine all the time and we're getting mine resources, then we don't really need to fill up with more of those. So that's going to have to come off at some point, but apart from that, that's fine. So maybe we'll look at getting a tech building then. If we spot one which has a nice power, and we'll just slot it into our last space there and call it that. So tech buildings require a lot of uranium, as well as titanium and gold. So if we go for here, and we'll grab a uranium, a titanium, and then our bonus resource can be an extra gold as per our Tectonic Drill. And that looks like a good engine indeed. So yes. Number 3 is, again, nope, so fortunately it can't, well, fortunately for us, it can't do the water action again, because it doesn't have the required resources. It does have to take that into account somewhat. So that will move along, and then the highest number will move along from there, and it will do a recruit bonus instead. So suit out into recruiting options, and what does it want now? So administrator is a preferred option, and administrator is indeed available in the people it can grab. So there, and then it just wants a scientist, and it's now going to get 5 points for all those guys, but that is further on down the line. So fine. We have one suit left with a genius who could do another mine, I think. So again, we'll do this one. Well, no, it doesn't really matter. We can get the 3 resources we need either way. So if we get a gold, a uranium, and then a titanium as our bonus that time. So we are now getting a bunch of resources. We need a lot more gold, but apart from that, we're fine. So yeah. Could have done a 3rd suit actually, to be honest, and placed it out for a mine and got more gold, lots of gold, but well, next turn should be fine for that. Fine. So then, excuse me. So we're on to Chronobot for a number 6, and it is going to be, so we're not in Cataclysm just yet, so it's just going to get a point and shuffle its tile back along. But unfortunately, once we are in Cataclysm, it's really going to look at getting super projects and getting big points from those. So are we going to be able to beat the Chronobot to getting super projects? We're not really going for it, so I don't think so, unfortunately, but never mind. Right, over to us. We're going to wake everybody up with our genius/administrator. We are going to have to pay 6 gold, but that's rounded down by half, so we only have to pay 3. And move that along, and these guys will wake up. So good. Chronobot time. Another 6. So it's going to get 2 water, and that is fine. Right then, so we've got a scientist. Nope, we're not doing power plant just yet because we have the resources, but we're not in the future to send back to the past. So we're just going to do a gold for water and a point, and then more water, and sacrifice somebody. Yes, might be a good time to get that out now, actually. So we'll do the gold for water and a point. 6 water, 1 point. Okay, Chronobot is again number 6. This die does come up with other faces, I'm sure of it. So again, it's just going to get a point and slide it across. So, I mean, as far as the Chronobot is concerned, it is going to be quite happy doing that all game, to be honest. It doesn't have to use suits, so it doesn't accelerate its passing. It can just go back and forth and get water and points. So yeah, we'll have to end the round early for it. So we'll go there, and we'll get 3 water. Good. And then Chronobot is number 3, so it is going to build. It can certainly build. Can it build tech? Yes, it can. So number 3 moves across, and it will come out to the World Council spot and build a tech building. Either one gives it equal points, so it's going to be the one in the secondary stack. And it is almost filled up on tech buildings. So fair enough. Back to us for our final action, I believe, and we're going to sacrifice one of these scientists who haven't been doing a whole lot for us. Some, but not enough to warrant their survival, I suspect. So we have to give up 2 water. We have the 2 water. And then we give up 2 resources of our choice, or 1 neutronium. And 2 resources of our choice, or 1 neutronium. I don't believe we're using the neutronium for a whole lot, honestly. So maybe just the 1 neutronium. I really have more use for gold and titanium and uranium at this point. So yeah, while neutronium is as rare as it is, it's not rare enough to warrant keeping it around. Especially as we're going to go into Cataclysm next round, and we're going to get it out into the mining track in abundance. So sure, we'll do that. And then this building clears up the the anomalies and gets sucked back into the time stream and takes the unfortunate scientist with it. So he is gone. But still, that's 3 points cleared off. That is not too bad at all. And Chronobot for a final action. Number 2 is going to be a recruit. It cannot do a recruit because there's no spots left for it to recruit. So it simply moves along and it gets a point and 2 water. And I think I'm going to try and clear up some of its huge stack of points here. So that's a 5, but other than that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll change those into a 5. So yeah, it's got points upon points there basically, and points upon points in the buildings. But apart from that, well, it's not looking too bad. I'm sure we're going to pull it back somewhere. So yeah. And then we get to pass, and then Chronobot is forced to pass. So good. Let's see. We need to retrieve workers. So these guys back, this guy back. We can't tell, unfortunately, that he was used for anything. So that, and then let's see. These 2 guys do get to stay woken up. So they're in that area there. And those 2 get to stay woken up. So that is fine. We do still have a use for a couple of scientists in breakthroughs and power plants, so we don't need to get rid of all of them just yet, so fair enough. And then we get to do a recruit with a water bonus, so 2 water, and there are only engineers left, so unfortunately it's going to be an engineer, but that's still better than nothing, so yeah. And then suits are back, and these 2, and Chronobot is back as well. Oops. Right, so we are now actually going to go into after the impact basically. So, spoiler alert, asteroid hits, bad stuff happens. This is what allows us all the time travelling shenanigans as it sees neutroniums throughout the world, and has been allowing us to send stuff through the rifts in time. But now it's impacted and everything's going to hell in a handbasket. We want to get out of here, and we want to try and in the normal game anyway, basically recruit as much people to our cause as possible and set up a future government. But in the solo game, I believe you just want to basically escape Chronobot's clutches and not be subjected to a life of slavery. So that indicates a turning point in the game. We now have to... Does it tell me on the back of the... It does indeed. It tells me on the back of the card. So, impact. We basically flip over the World Council tile to show that evacuation is imminent, as everything seems to be set on fire. So in a normal game you would basically race to evacuate and you would try and get there first, otherwise suffer negative points, but in the solo game we can meander up there as late as we like and not have to worry about Chronobot taking over. Then we have to place out World Council incentives. So we have a stack of these, and these are for the 3 main columns. So we have building, recruiting, and breakthroughs, and basically you place out 2 of these in each spot, and that gives you a bit of a boost to get over to these spots and get stuff done. You don't have to pay the normal water cost for the space. You just get the bonus, hopefully, for whatever you land on. But this does also accelerate the time track of the game, because once either we get to the end of the 7 eras, or these spaces have been used and then flipped over, that also triggers the end of the game. So you can have a long-term game plan and then find it get snatched away, unfortunately, rather sooner than you'd like, but we'll see. So we also have to block off some of our board areas. So where did I put those tiles? They're up there. So unfortunately, because the world is ending, your base also gets a bit shaken about, and you have to block off some of your mech bays. So we only now can activate three mech suits in their entirety. We can get some sent back to us from the future. So if we do that, we can get them placed out onto unavailable areas, but apart from that, we're going to have 3 suits and that's it, really. And then also a handy reminder that when you flip over the mine card, you discard whatever the top resource is, and you simply chuck out neutronium into that space instead. So good. It's not too bad though. Chronobot is also limited to 4 suits rather than the usual 6 when it gets impacted, but as per this action he will now start trying to grab up super projects. So those could go very quickly, unfortunately. They're a chunk of points. But we'll see. I'm going to put a quick break in here, and then we'll finish up for the following, hopefully 3 areas, possibly less, after that. So back in a second. And we're back. So then, we've had the impact, and we need to go on to the next phase, so preparation. Let's have a look then. So, recruits and mine materials, and we'll do buildings while we're here. So then, we need 1 scientist, yep, 1 engineer, and then 2 administrators. So that is a bit of a shame, it's not any geniuses, but never mind. And then first one is going to be now neutronium, because we're past the impact. So we've got gold, 1 uranium, and then 2 titanium, and then the usual 3 on the right hand side. Well, that's not terrible, to be honest. We could do 1 mine which would grab us gold, and then we get a spare gold as per our bonus. So yeah, that's 1, 2, 3 gold. We've got a 4th gold. We've got 1, 2, 3. And this genius needs to come back. So 4 geniuses. So 4 geniuses. If we can get 4 gold, and then we evacuate, and that's pretty much maximum points, to be honest, which is perfect, because we're going to get, well, we're going to get at least 1 era, basically. Let's see, we need the new super project, which is going to be the cloning vat. I guess we could always clone a genius. Chances of building that, though, at least before the game end, are pretty slim, to be honest. So, because we're going to get at least 1 era, possibly 2 if the chronobot doesn't basically jump around all the spots, and maybe 3 but basically go to game end. So yeah, I think counting on 2 eras, we can probably expect 4 geniuses and 4 gold to be a reasonable amount of effort for the evacuation, and then call it that, and then work on, well, some other bits and pieces. Some of these bonuses for getting in these council spots look pretty good, so probably some of those. So let's see then. So we're on to paradoxes. Chronobot's going to roll for paradoxes, and it's going to get nothing. That's a shame. And we're going to roll for paradoxes, and we of course get 1, but it's not 2, so it's better than nothing, I suppose. And that goes there. And hopefully, well, okay, so if we only get 2 eras, maybe we're only going to roll once more for paradoxes. That shouldn't be too bad. Potentially even no rolls for paradoxes if we can get this off with a time travel. So sure. Okay, and then powering up suits, and unfortunately we're only going to get to power up 3. We would obviously like to power up more, but the most we're going to be able to do is 3 no matter what. So we need to give up, I think, 1 core and then 3 water for the other one. With 2 and change. And that will leave us sufficient cores if we go into future eras, and that still gives us a reasonable amount of water with which to do things as well. We don't get any water back because we have no spaces filled up now. No spaces that are unoccupied. They're all cordoned off by the devastation from the impact. Chronobot is going to power up 4 suits only now, so we'll put 2 back out the way, just so we don't forget. So that means it is going to be doing less stuff, but it is going to possibly actually get to pass this time round. And hopefully we'll get, yeah, we should be able to get 2 areas out of these actions, and that'll be good enough. So we're done with that. We need to warp, and I think we're going to get enough gold from a mine that we don't have to worry about warping in gold. And we could do a titanium. We have some titanium to spare. We were going to potentially spend it on a tactile placement. And looking at the tactiles, what have we got? That would allow us to get rid of the paradox tile. That was pretty good. That one just basically wakes up our workers. I'm not too fussed about that. I think we're managing to wake them up fairly well with morale bonuses, so yeah. So we might go for this one. And at the very least that's 3 points and allows us to get rid of a paradox tile, which is good. Oh, and even better if we can combat with this as a bonus, which gives us bonus points for whichever column we get to place it in. If we can place it in the far end spot, that gives us an additional 3 points, which is even better. So what's that? 2 uranium, 2 titanium, 1 gold, but we can score evacuation and then use up gold, so that's not a problem. We could always use a 1 titanium discount, which leaves us a spare titanium. Yeah, let's go for the titanium. So we'll spend a warp tile, or place one out. We'll grab a titanium, and then we could always, hopefully at the very least, send that back through time if we get another error out of this, and get that sent and get bonus points. So yeah, we'll try that. And Chronobot is 1 paradox, or 1 warp tile, sorry. So we're tied up on those, but that's not too bad, I don't think. Okay. And into main actions. So then, we are going to get to go first. That's always a good thing because we have very few exosuits now, so we want to make the most out of them. And we're going to want to save our geniuses for something else. I suspect we can use engineers at the very least. So we'll come over here and do a mine. Or do we want to get in on these spots while the getting is good? What's Chronobot want to grab? He wants to grab neutronium first, uranium first. So the gold will most likely be left over for at least 1 more turn. So actually saying that, we'll come and do a build very quickly before that gets blocked off. So we will, yeah, come and do a build. And we get a 1 titanium discount. So this space is only going to cost 2 uranium, 1 titanium, 1 gold. Well, fine, that's going to be 3 less points. But we should be able to get the gold back in time, I think. I think that's, yeah, I think we should be able to do that. So, fine, we'll spend all that, and the 2 water, of course. And we will build this tile, which allows us to take off paradox tiles and the resources. So that's not too bad. It requires a scientist to use, so that's at least some use for our scientists. And we get a bonus 3 points because of the incentive. Whoops, our engineer dropped out. The incentive for the tile. So we'll get 5, and we can put back 2. So that's pretty good. That's a good chunk of points anyway. And Chronobot, with his 4 powered up exosuits, is going to be number 3. So it's going to do a breakthrough and slide along. So it will quite happily do that. It doesn't gain any incentives from the tiles, it just basically clogs them up. So it will roll, and it's going to take a triangle. Doesn't matter which one, it just wants the shape. So triangle there, and then we are going to, so we've got 1 powered up exosuit for evacuation if necessary. We've got 1 for a mine, and then evacuation. What I'd really like to do is do a quick recruit and grab this bonus for the morale track increase. But we're going to get maximum morale anyway when we wake people up. So that's not too bad, to be honest. So yeah, we could just do a mine and an evacuate and then worry about home board stuff after that. So if we take another engineer and place it there, and that gives us 1 gold, 2 gold, and 3 gold as our bonus for maximum gold. And can we get another gold from somewhere? Not without going through another era, unfortunately. Will we last to another era? We might very well last to another era. It's possible. Okay, well, right then. So Chronobot is going to do a 5, and it's going to be another breakthrough. Okay, so it's taking up all the breakthrough spots. Yeah, that's... okay, let's circle this time. That's taking those up very quickly. So... well, technically it doesn't even have the suits to be able to fill up all the spaces. If we don't do anything else at all, if we do none of the recruit actions, and we don't do another build, which is fine, it is not even going to have enough suits to fill up all the spaces. So we will definitely get 1 more era, I suspect. So we could probably send this suit out, do another mine, grab the necessary gold, and that's fine. And then crack on very quickly with doing some of these board actions before the Chronobot passes. Yes, do we want to do that? Because we don't have to do taking off Paradox Tiles, so I'm not that fussed about that, but we will have to do a time travel and probably get a bit more water that way. So let's probably focus on these first and then worry if we have space for an exosuit placement after that. Yeah, I think that's probably a better way of doing it, because we definitely want to get the time travel done first. So scientist out, focus reset to the past, and we'll send our 2 water back, so we need 3 and change. Good, and that bumps us up successfully on the time travel, and we'll replace this to not confuse ourselves, so this is the focus still. And then Chronobot is going to do a number 3, which is going to be a mine, so it is still chucking out suits. And what did I say I wanted first? Purple and green, so this space will allow it to grab those 2 preferred resources, like so. And then we get 1 more action, Chronobot gets 1, and if it's a suit placement, then it's going to get 1 more after that, and then it's going to pass. So 2 more, we get 2 more. Right, okay. So we could do... well, let's go into the mine quickly while it's still available, shall we? Or get some water. Water might not be a bad idea, we do need that. And if we spend gold, next turn we'll have to get more gold, but that's not too bad. So, okay, we'll use a genius and we'll spend a gold to get 6 water, so plenty of water, that's good at the point. Even better. Chronobot is going to do action number 5, which is going to be another mine, so unfortunately it does clog up the mine space, but never mind. And it now wants gold. Well, it cannot get gold, but it can certainly get that titanium and that uranium as another preferred resource, like so. Okay, so its next action is going to be a time travel, then it's going to pass. So we need to crack on then. We could do a genius to just get 3 more water, 1, 2, 3. Like so. So it's going to do time travel. It does have tokens it can take off. It will take this one off and push up there. And it's going to pass next. So if we, well, either way, we just basically probably do this for a paradox tile taking off, and then we basically secure ourselves against getting an anomalous building for certain. Chronobot passes, and we could just pass as well, to be honest. We could do a wake up, but we're only going to get 3 back anyway, so it's probably beneficial to actually leave that, to be honest. We could do, oh dear, did I move the morale token? I think we were up to there. That can shift around if you're not paying exceptional attention to it. So we could save our genius and stick it to a suit, but to be honest, what would we do? We could do a recruit and grab that tile and one of these, but we're going to get a free recruit with our leadership bonus, and I prefer to be able to grab a genius if one plonks out on the next recruit card. So if we can get this action and then still get a genius from it, that's probably even better. So I might save and do that. I don't really want to trade. And, well, we could just get some water, to be honest. It's going to be, but then that eases up our genius. No, I think we'll probably save it. I don't think there's much return we can get from it that's worth possibly wasting it and having it be in the unactivated area if we possibly need it. So we'll save it, and unfortunately that was just a suit that we had to pay for but not actually use, but never mind, that happens sometimes. So then, on to clean up. We retrieve workers. That one is going to get woken up, so those two like so, and then that guy is out, and 1, 2 there, and this guy. So yeah, we only have a few guys with which to do stuff before we manage to get a wake up action done, so we probably want to save as many as possible, so that's fine. And we can get our 2 suits. So this one was taken off here, so that flips. That one is a normal space, that's fine. Chronobot's going to take these 2 off, so those 2 flip. And those are back in that space, and those 2 are fine. So that's fine. What else are we doing? Oh, recruit. So we can spend 2 water, we may as well. And if we recruit one of these administrators, that frees up a genius for something else, and we can just shove an administrator into the morale step. So that is fine. And then, let's see, so 1, 2, 3, yeah, I think we're going to get one more era out of this, and that's probably it. And that's fair enough. So then, next era, so move the focus along, and into preparation, so final super project that we can see, the ultimate plan, gives us 3 points for super projects. Okay, unlikely to build that, so never mind. And then we are into recruit. Good, there is a genius, so we're going to grab that first thing then, and some resources. So, scientist is out, engineer is out, administrator is out, and a genius is out. Excellent, that's perfect. And then gold, neutronium is the default top one, now past the cataclysm, and we want 2 uranium and a titanium, and then filling up the various spaces on the right. So recruit, do a mine for maximum gold, do an evacuation, let Chronobot do whatever the hell it likes, and that is fine. So we need buildings. 1, 2, 3, and a 4th. None of those particularly appeal. We've got space for mines, but I think at this point we're done with resources. We've got some space for power plants, but this one is working about as well as we really want. so that is fine. And oh, I did not. Oh, I needed to go back in time and do the water one. That's what I forgot to do. Oh dear. Okay, so we're definitely going to have to go back at least once in time and send some water back. Well, okay, yep, fair enough. That's fine. So then, rolling for paradoxes, we're going to have to roll there. Unfortunately, we did not clear that one off, and we get a paradox. So we could still get 2 paradoxes on this second roll and be in anomalous building territory. No, just the one. Fair enough. So we're on the very edge of paradoxical activity, and Chronobot is going to get 1 as well. But it does not care too much, to be honest. It's still got this one that it has not cleared out, so that's fine. Okay, and on to powering up. Well, again, we're going to do, so that one technically should have come off the board when we did retrieval, but now it comes back on again, so that one's for free. And then we've got 2 more, and we could just spend 2 calls, to be honest, and save our water. Yeah, I think we'll spend 2 calls because I suspect this is going to be the last era, and we'll save our water. We're not going to get any water in return, that's fine. Chronobot's going to get its default 4, so that is also fine. And we can warp. No, because any stuff we warp in now, we're not likely to get ahead in the future in order to send stuff back and clear it out. So it's going to be basically just stuff for the sake of it, and then a bit of an annoyance later on when we have to either lose points or clear it out. So I think we'll be fine on not bothering with warp tiles. Chronobot will still carry on and do warp tiles because it just wants all the stuff. And then action rounds, and we are still going to go first. So we're going to do what? That immediate recruit, like so. So we're going to do an immediate recruit. We're going to get the genius, which is neither here nor there, to be honest. It's just for evacuation now, I think. And we can get any bonus we like, and we may as well get the point, to be honest. So we could say it was an administrator and we'll get the point for it as a bonus. We don't really need extra water, and we're done with power cores, I suspect. So yeah, point is probably the better option. And we also get a morale boost for that thing, so that puts us up to the maximum, which is good. And then any future is just extra points, which we're going to do at least once. So yeah, that's 3 points, that's good. And Chronobot is number 2. Number 2 is, so it's going to take a building space, and it's going to be a resource generating space. So it's going to take that one. That's, yeah, clearing up the spaces quite handily, and it wants this one as the most points. And okay, I'll put that one back and pretend I don't see it. So it actually has 3 mine buildings, so it can't build anymore. So what it will do is it will still take up the space, and it will still move on the marker, but it will just in this case get 2 water and a point, and be quite happy at that. So never mind. Alright, so we need to do some mining. So genius, oops, on the floor, just hang on a second. Right, there we go. I'm sure I don't like being chopped on the floor. So genius, and that can masquerade as an engineer. And we'll come over here and we'll get gold, and we'll get gold, and then we'll get a bonus gold. So that is all the gold. So 5 gold, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 geniuses. So yeah, that's 15 points. That's perfect. I'm quite happy with that. That should offset the Chronobot's points expansion somewhat. And it's going to do another number 2. What's that? Water into... yeah, it definitely can do, unfortunately. So 1, 2, 3, and then a further 4 is a total of 7. And that boosts its morale up to the maximum, unfortunately, but never mind. And then that shuffles along, so at least it's not going to get to that again. And it didn't spend a suit on it, so that's fine. Oh. if it doesn't spend a suit on doing a recruit, we're not going to get to close off this era. And honestly, I'd like to do that. I really would. But we have to evacuate. We have to spend our final suit evacuating. Oh dear. Because all it's going to do now is just rack up even more points. Is it going to do a recruit? It might roll a 5 or a 3 and then get shuffled along to recruit on the next space. That's unlikely. Well, there's not much we can do about it, unfortunately. Oh, damn. I did not take that into account. Okay, never mind. So we are going to evacuate, and we may as well send our engineer so he can come up here and evacuate, if nothing else. So we have successfully done the basic requirement, which is 1, 2, 3 buildings. So that's the water one's done, and we get 2 points for it. And then we get a bonus, and this can be scored as many times as you can really, of gold plus geniuses. It gives you a further 3. And we have, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. And then the 5 gold. So 15 in total, plus 2 is a total of 17. So 2, 3 5s, and further 1s. Good. So that is a lot of points. That is good. I'm happy with that. And then Chronobot is going to, and normally we would, in a normal game you'd sort of place your marker up to show that you evacuated first, and then others would fill in below you and get negative points if they weren't quick enough, but because we're the only player we can just say we evacuated, and well, I suppose technically put a marker up just to show we actually did it, and then we won't be fooled into trying to do it again in a future round if there is one. So sure, there goes a marker, and that's fine. Chronobot is a 6, so he is going to get 2 water, but unfortunately on future 6s he's going to start buying up super projects, which is a bit annoying. So there we go, and wow, we could pass and force it into another era, but I really don't want to. So what will we do? Well, let's do a wake up. We'll use this administrator, and we'll spend 8. Halve it is 4, so 5, and we'll put 1 back, and get everyone woken up. Good. Like so. And then because we're at the maximum morale, we can't shift it any further, so we just get 3 points. So that is 5, and we'll put 2 back. 1, 2. Alright, which leaves Chronobot doing a 5. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking for. So he's going to mine, he's going to build water, but he can't build water because he's at maximum water. So he will still take a suit, and unfortunately I'll place it into first player spot, so he'll knock us out and grab first player. And then he gets 2 water and a point, so it's just going to keep carrying on with the points. We can... we want to definitely do that and do a time travel. So set our focus back 2 in the past. So we only have a 2 in the power plant, so that's as far as we can go back. Excuse me. And then we'll send 2 water back, and we can clear that off, and we can get more time travel points for it. Excellent. And Chronobot, if he rolls a 5, that'd be great. Oh, brilliant. Thank you kindly. So he is indeed going to do a recruit action. There we go. Which one does he like? Scientist. It is going to give him 5 points, unfortunately, so never mind. It's not all that it was cracked up to be, but he has filled out the last of his slots in preferred order. So that is all those guys, and that will give him 5 points for the set. But at least that does then close out the era, and he won't get any more points for other shenanigans later on. So fine. We can finalise with that building for a point, and then that's probably about it, to be honest. Yeah, I think that's about the best we can do. So we'll do this water building. We'll send or pay up a gold, and we'll get 6 water. Not that it matters too much because resources at the end are basically worthless, but we do get a point, and that is an extra point, so that is nothing to be sneezed at. And Chronobot is going to do 2, so he's going to do a build, and it's going to be a tech building, which unfortunately he can do, so it is going to be slightly more points for him, but never mind. That one is the preferred option, and he does have the building space for it, does he? 1, 2, 3, yeah, so just about. And then he's practically all filled up with buildings as well. And if we pass now, there's nothing else we can do, I believe, that gives us points anyway. And yeah, so we pass. We'll pass, Chronobot has to pass, and we are done. So let's do retrieve workers. It really doesn't matter what comes back and where it comes back at this point, because when we get these guys back off the spaces, these tiles will now flip, so on and so forth, and that is a triggering of the game. We could, if we'd left one open, for example, then we would carry on for the final era and we'd do all 7 eras, but we can trigger the game early by doing all of the main action spaces completed, and that is game end. So good. So now it's just end of game points, basically. Oh, one thing I forgot. So we do have to clear up our warp tiles, basically. We have to try and send back, excuse me. Sorry about that. We have to try and send back resources if we can. We do have the titanium. We can take off this warp tile. We do not, unfortunately, get a time research bonus for it. We just get the satisfaction of knowing that we've done that. And then any tiles that were left on the track would be negative 2 points if you didn't succeed in getting them off. Chronobot does not care. He will quite happily leave warp tiles all over the place and not worry about clearing them up. So he is fine, and he doesn't suffer negative points from it. So then it is just basically points for the normal stuff. So in the normal game you'd also get end of game bonuses, for whoever has the most water, for example, whoever has the most time research, that kind of stuff. But we don't bother with that in a soda game, so it is going to be, let's see what's the best way of doing this then. So we're going to be points like so. Can I change that into a 5 to make this slightly easier? I can indeed. That is 5 ones will become a 5. What's Chronobot got in points? All the points probably. 1, 2, yep. 5 and 5. That's going to be a 5, so that makes it slightly easier. Oh, well, actually, we'll take him 3 away for his anomalous building. So that building will count off those points, so that should make it somewhat easier. There is a score pad. I have mislaid it somewhere, so I'll be trying to do this all on my head, unfortunately. You'll just have to hopefully try and bear with me as best as possible, and I'll make this as painless as possible. So no points for people, but certainly points for buildings, so that's going to be 10. That is a further 5, and then 3 there. What's Chronobot got in points? All the building points, I suspect. That's a 10. Sorry, that's a 5. That's a 5. That is a 5. Yep. And is that going to be nice? And no, that's going to be 8. Okay. Well, we'll do that as a 10 then. Okay. And he's also got 11, 12 there. Right then, can I do this all in my head? So, we have points for buildings. So that is, what did I say it was? 10, 15, and a further 3 is 18. We have points for morale. So we have 8, so 18 plus 8 is 26. We have points for time, so we have 26 plus 8 is 34. We have miscellaneous points that you just gain during the game, so that is 34, 44, 54, 64. That seems about right. We took care of all our negative points, so that should be 64, and we don't have any breakthroughs, so we don't get points for breakthroughs. So 64 on our end, I think, is about right. If I've missed anything, by all means let me know. So 64, and then Chronobot is going to get, so let's do it, so that's going to be 5, 10, 15, 25, I think, for all that. Then he's got 6, that's 31, and a 5, so that is 36, 37, 47, plus another 5 is 52, and then he's got 1, 2, 3, so 55 in breakthroughs, and then not a complete set, so if it's a set of circle, triangle and square, that will be a further couple of points, but he's not got a full set, so it's just the extra points for the breakthroughs. And yeah, I think that was it. So it's at 55, or close enough. So 64 to 55, and that is the final score. We don't get any more points for resources, so either kind of, if you haven't used them, they're a bit wasted, but never mind. So yeah, not too bad at all, I don't think. And that is the solo game of Anachrony. So yeah. Like I said, unfortunately it doesn't play with all of the modules, so it is just the base game, but even so it's still a pretty good experience. And the flow chart of Chronobot means you can reasonably predict what he's going to do and plan around it, but obviously the die is a bit of a randomizing factor, so it does take into account a bit of chance, but even so you still can hopefully predict, or at least mitigate somewhat what he's going to do and plan accordingly, so it's not too bad in that aspect. It does, if the rolls do go against you somewhat, he can rack up a load of points very quickly with buildings, and then once he's not got any reasonable actions to do, he'll just keep cranking out points and water, which will allow him to move up morale as well. But even so, it's I think it's a reasonable flow. Fortunately, we were just about at the stage where he wasn't getting super projects, otherwise that's obviously a lot more points there, and points taken away that you might want to get with building your own super projects. But on the whole, not too bad. And yes, I believe the upcoming expansion does include at least the ability to put modules into the game for the solo game, so you can play with the Doomsday module and other bits and pieces, which has the Chronobot Omega kind of expanded into solo play. And then there is another mode, the Chronosis mode, which is going to be the full expansion with all the blinking and the bits and pieces into that as well. And I'll definitely have to see how that plays as such time as it gets delivered. But if you're watching this in the future, hopefully it's already here, and I've already done a video of that as well. But otherwise, yeah, solo game of Anachrony. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.